Young widows, we're brushed aside. We're swept under the rug. Or hurry up and get married again. Move on with your life. Get over it. And I don't think people are like looking at what that really means. What does that mean for someone that's gone through it? What does that mean for their family dynamic? What does that mean for their kids? What does that mean for their friendships? The whole 9 yards. This is Every Widow Thing. Welcome back to Every Widow Thing. I'm here with my main crew, Lacey, Holly, and Whitney. And today we wanted to dive into something that kind of blends, some real traumatic emotions, but also some lighthearted and funny stories. Mm-hmm. And that is the subject of dating. Dating after your husband has died. So we've all done some dating and we've had some relationships and near marriage. We know it's rough out there, ladies, and we're just going to share some just kind of funny stories about getting back out there.
Yeah, it's scary. I knew my husband at 19. I had the best little figure, tight, cute. And after he died, one of my weird first thoughts was like, no one's going to know that 19-year-old butt. They didn't know it at 19.
Got a pretty cute butt.
It's fine, but it's a 50. How old am I? 52? Shit, am I 52? A 52-year-old butt. It's not the same. The skin isn't as supple.
But neither is theirs.
Three babies.
Right. You're going out with unless you're dating a much younger.
Well, I was trying to date some babies for a while in their 30s, and then I just was so self-conscious. Because I had some girlfriends that were like, you're dating too old. Because my window was like 45 to 50. And they were like, you need to go younger. And I did.
Expand the age range.
The younger? Well,
I had to expand mine to older, is what I was told.
Oh, really?
That's you were told that too, weren't you, Lace?
Older?
Yeah, and my husband was 9 years younger, so I thought that was odd.
That's weird.
Because the older men are always looking for younger women, and that's
that's true. But I will say there were a lot of 30-somethings that were looking
I didn't go that young.
I know. Well, first I was 35, and then one of my friends was like, you need to go to 30. And I was like, what?
No,
wow. And for a moment I did, and I was like, I can't.
No.
But even the 35-year-old, I was too self-conscious when we were out. I'm just like, why are you with me? Like, what is, what, and I can't have your baby. Like, what? It was too hard to have fun. And, that's one thing that I think married women, and I was one of these women because I had a friend who was a widow, and I was always like, you're having so much fun. You get to date all these guys and go have fun. And it's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's
hard.
changed. It's now online.
It's like a part-time job.
Before, when you met, I met Oliver at work on the elevator. Now I'm having to swipe, and it's horrible.
Oh, I hate it.
I hate it
in person.
I've given up on that.
All right, so Keira,
the whole culture has changed.
You have the most dating experience out of all of us.
I don't know if that's true. I had an interesting sort of reconnection with someone after the accident, actually with my high school boyfriend. One of my first dates that I remember that stands out, I was so nervous. I think I met the guy on Match.
And you're... I
was 42 at the time of the accident, so it's at least a year out. I'm probably 43, 44. And I started with Match. I remember getting so many messages and being so overwhelmed because I'm still raising 3 small kids. This one guy, I don't know, I just thought he was cute and he seemed sincere. I'm super nervous, and I know you guys can relate. Like, every date, you just want to look your best, like you were saying. You're just like, oh my God,
what am I going to wear?
I've got to look amazing for this date because, like, this could be the one.
Right.
And boy, did I learn that that's not the approach. But this was one of the early days, and one of these hilarious moments in the car that I remember. So this guy was Brazilian and had a really amazing body, because I just remember there were, like, photos of him like rock climbing or something. And I was like, okay, let's go to dinner with that. But I did not know how to pronounce his name. So his name was like Jouau, like a bunch of vowels. And
I would have been like, I can't do it.
I'm on the way to the date because I was so rushed because the kids and everything. I'm on the way to the date and I'm Googling how do you pronounce the name. And I'm in my car and it's Jouau is his name. I think.
Wow.
And I hope he's not listening. And I'm in the car going, Joao, hello, Joao. And I'm trying to copy the woman who, the Google woman who's pronouncing it for me. And I'm just so freaked out. I'm like, I'm going to this date. I can't even pronounce this guy's name. So we get to dinner, and it turns out that he's a jiu-jitsu instructor, and he owns his own jiu-jitsu school.
Wow, jiu-jitsu.
Wow, jiu-jitsu. And he really, really, really enjoys talking about that. And that was pretty much, I'm just like chips and salsa, margaritas, keep it coming. And he's just jiu-jitsuing and talking about his business. He couldn't have been nicer, but when you know in the first 30 seconds, you're like, this is not.
I think we would have
my person.
not had you at Joao.
Right?
That would have been my first clue.
When you're first dating, I in particular was, I was raised well by my parents. I did not want to hurt this man's feelings. I didn't want to get up and leave.
Of course not.
If that was now, I might have been like, ooh, emergency phone call.
Right.
Like, I'm out. But this was one of the first dates. I sit through the meal, learned all about jiu-jitsu, and
had 5 margaritas.
You had a whole meal?
We had dinner. And then we go down to the valet, I guess, which is, downstairs, if you guys have ever been there. And there's the valet guy is standing there. And this guy just shoves his tongue down my throat in front of the valet.
No.
What did you
And I'm
do?
almost like trying to make eye contact with the valet. Like,
help me.
yes. Like,
What'd you do?
I just met
power
this
through?
guy. I was so thrown, and I was so like, just what a disaster, there was nothing wrong with him. He was kind and, but I was so taken aback by having just like a complete stranger's mouth on my mouth. And it was a lot.
It
was
is
a lot.
hard, like that first
And that's
time
a
when you
first.
kiss somebody and you're like, I haven't kissed anybody since I was 19.
Well,
Except for
Holly,
this
it took
person.
you the longest to start dating. I waited 3 years, I think, and you waited, 5?
5.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And you just weren't ready.
Well, in the first few years, I was like, I'm never going to date anyone. And my married friends were like, we'd go out and they'd be like, okay, let us download the apps and let's take your picture.
Yeah, they think it's all fun.
So
Yeah,
much
of course
fun.
they do.
And it drove me crazy. And then it was right after the 5-year mark, I met someone not set up, but just happened to be with friends, and they had a single guy friend.
This is
We're
a
not
story.
saying any names.
Nope.
And that, we just, all had fun and went out for a friend's birthday. And
He gave you attention. He gave you some attention.
kind of. But I woke up the next morning. Everybody had gone home, and I woke up the next morning.
Except for him.
No,
he was gone. He went home.
He went home. Like nothing happened.
And there he was.
Nothing happened. But I woke up and I was like, well, he was kind of cute. Maybe I could date.
There's a story that she's not telling you. The guy that she kissed that night.
I did not kiss him.
Oh,
No,
I thought you did.
No.
But-
okay, you're interrupting my
we weren't
story.
there.
And
But the funny thing is that before she ever met this particular person, I had gone out on a date with this particular person. I'd met on Bumble and went out on the date. It was the weirdest date I think I've ever had in my entire life. It did not go well. And as soon as I got to the car, I went delete. So I called up Holly and said, would you go walking with me today? And so we're walking around Town Lake, and all but that person comes walking the opposite way. And I said, do not turn your head. Do not turn your head.
And I turned
There
my
he is. And of course, she turns her head. And she'd forgotten about that day. I didn't forget it.
Did he stop and talk? Or
Oh,
No.
no. So kept going. But the funny thing is, then flash forward, she didn't remember what he looked like because it was 2 seconds long. And then she proceeded to run into him, and he was friends with some of her friends. And I knew people who knew him too. So that's why it's
the
even
story
weirder
is
still.
that
Wait, you
that's
guys dated the same guy?
That's the guy.
I never dated him.
We didn't date.
I love that.
Austin's too small.
It's my turn to
Okay,
talk.
go, Holly.
No, I never dated this guy. Like, he is just the guy that sparked an interest
In dating.
in dating. So then, fast forward, y'all came over and did my photo shoot, and I got on the apps, and it's been like just so much fun.
But I don't want to dissuade people who are listening.
You've had a little bit of fun, though, didn't you?
No, I have had fun.
It's hard.
And this
it's
was a year
heart-hurting
ago.
sometimes.
It's been a year, and I'm not where I thought I would be right in a year. Like that is a little bit disappointing because I thought I would, I don't know, be happier right now.
You thought you would be in a relationship.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, because this is the truth. None of us really thought about, you didn't have to think about it the first time. You know,
No,
we were
'cause,
young
I
and
was
it just
19.
happens. And then we all looked out and married the loves of our
Yeah,
lives.
the bar was set really high.
Yes.
I think for
I think
all
that's
of us.
the real problem here.
And the minute you get on that date, you're like, oh no, this is not even close. Just not even
I also
close.
dated so much on the front end. I wasn't 19. I was older when I got married. And so it really bothered me that here I am again. Are you kidding me? I played that card. I played it a long time.
And had a lot of fun.
And I had a lot of fun. It was, I was not the type that was wanting to get married and have babies. I mean, it took a long time for me to get around to that.
Then
It was
how did
only I met Oliver that I was like, okay, this is a guy I didn't want to live without him. I mean, my dad said, that's how you know. I did not, I knew I couldn't live without him.
How long had you been a widow before you got engaged?
It was 3 years in when I first started dating.
Okay.
And I'd only gone out on a couple of dates when I met somebody on Match. It took, I think we didn't get engaged until like a year and a half in, or it was over a year before we got engaged.
And what was that? Because I have a friend right now who's a widow, and over a short period of time, she dated a lot. And then she got engaged and she actually got married. And she's like, I think I thought he was going to take away the grief.
It did for a little while, take away, but it was never my intention to find someone to get married to. I have to be clear about that. That was, I don't know that I do now. I mean, I don't know.
And just to be clear, she didn't end up marrying the guy.
The main thing to say is I was very confused. And it was 3 years in. I hadn't gone out with many people. He's a very nice person. Very nice person. Nothing about him. That's the thing. It wasn't about him. It wasn't anything about that life. I finally realized all these years later, it really had more to do with timing. It has a lot to do with what, I don't know. It was tough.
What work you've done on yourself, too.
Yes.
Where you were back then is not where you are now.
Oh, my God. Even
And
in my darkest hour now, didn't even come close. Because I was using it at the beginning to dating just so that I didn't have to feel such pain anymore. I was over it. I thought,
Yeah, it
I
was like
cannot
a fun
do this
distraction
anymore.
for me.
It was
just like, let me just get out there.
Yeah.
Let me have a night out, because you can do girls' nights out. We've talked about that can be super fun. You can do a lot of girls' nights out. You can get thrown in with divorced women, and then you just kind of feel like a fish out of water there because it's not the same experience.
And you miss affection.
And you
I
just
think that's
miss-
what people don't
yeah.
want to say. You miss having,
You want to be touched.
affection and, snuggling and all of that stuff. So, and it was good for a little while until I think that's what I realized about the marriage thing is that it's been many more years after that it's taken to, I think it was just like a year ago that I finally feel like even though my life right now is not really easy, I've got, family issues and my kid's going to leave. It's been one of the toughest things that are happening around me, but I'm more solid than I've ever been because I have the tools in my toolbox that I learned through grief, therapy and EMDR. But the other is that I finally realized that I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Alone. You're okay if you're by yourself or
I don't love it.
Right.
I don't love it. It's not ideal because I am a partnered person. I like having somebody in my life, but meaning I'm okay. I'm not freaking out about it. I don't even know that I'm sad about it. It's more, I just accepted it.
I think that's when something amazing is going to be around the corner.
Well, that's what Vasquez said, right?
Yeah.
He said, what if? And I think there's a possibility that when Ryder is gone, because I tend to, we've talked about this, Keira, I know. Keira texts like a dude. The girl would not want to talk on the phone. She does not want
Keira,
to text very
text
long.
like a dude.
I do text like a dude. I don't have a lot of time to like
I think that's part of it.
indulge in emotional. But I'm not a big long-winded texter.
But I think
very
like
utilitarian.
one, well, writer says I am like one. I tend to do like what a lot of men do. They pour in all their energy into one thing. Women tend to like do 50 million things at one time, which I have to do that. I can't focus on just one thing at a time, but I'm not happy there. I tend to pour all my energy, and I think I did that with Ryder. I only have one kid. You guys have several, so I think that's easier for me to do.
That's why we were laughing and saying one kid is ignored. We don't have the energy to put all of our energy into all of the kids. So you recognize now that once Ryder's gone, you will probably. I do feel you're open to it now because I think you said like I'm ready. I can see myself getting out there, and you even did get on some of the dating apps.
I've definitely done that. I've been on over 50 first dates. Like that movie.
Yeah,
definitely.
50 first dates.
But it's a gift and a curse that I read things very quickly. I know within warp speed, like how you did on your date.
And then how
Keira.
do you leave? Because I would be like Keira, where I'm staying for the dinner, and I'm like, please, could there be like an earthquake or some the
I'm
building
always kind
catches
because
on
I
fire?
think they're people too. I'm always kind, but I don't lead them on either.
I'm kind, but they get mad. Like I had one guy that after the date, I went home and I just said, you spend hours trying to think of the perfect text to send. And I was like, it was great to meet you, but I just don't think it's a fit. Best of luck out there, whatever. And he literally got so mad. He's rapid fire texting me, why did you waste my time? Why would you even sit there for that long if you knew that it wasn't a thing? And I'm like, I am so glad that I'm never going to see you again.
Did you respond to that?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I had to block some guys that,
yeah.
But I did learn I learned that it was worse if I was nice, if I gave hope.
Yeah.
I never ghosted anybody, but I definitely had to learn how to be more direct and honest.
Well, I had one that was direct and honest with me.
Feelings.
He told me what you said.
Mm-hmm. It's hurtful.
And the whole time I was with him, he was gay. He was no doubt in my mind. He was a life coach. I think he saw a widow that he was going to help the little widow.
Right.
And then he got there at the bar and realized I'm not some wallflower. And I think he was a little bit like, oh, she's a lot. But at the same time, I got tickled when he sent that. I was like, and he's still out there, by the way. Still in the same old photos.
Oh, wow.
This is like
10,
But he's on the dating app as a heterosexual male?
yes, and he is not.
What
He is
about
not
on your
straight.
social apps? Do you have it out there that you're a widow?
No.
I didn't, but then I had to have like right after I would do the thing where I would get on for like a month and go on a couple of dates and they'd be like, I'm not ready. And then I would get off for several months and then I'd get back on.
Oh, you
for
mean
a
on
month.
like
I
the
do
dating
that
apps?
too.
Yeah. So in your bio, I didn't have it, but there were moments because especially in the beginning, I was talking, like Hunter's parents are still living and they are close by and I call them my in-laws. So like I'm sitting down to dinner or drinks or whatever with this guy and he's talking, we were just talking about what we were doing and I was like, oh, yesterday I was out at my in-laws and blah, 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 blah. And he made a joke like, oh yeah, I go over to my in-laws all the time too. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I need to give you a little piece of information. I'm not divorced. I'm a widow. So they are like still my in-laws. I don't know what I should say. And then he felt terrible. And also I've gone back and forth. I've put it in my bio and then I've taken it out and then I'll put it in sometimes.
It usually comes out with me, it usually would just come out in the texting, like, how long have you been divorced?
Right.
And then I was always upfront about it.
Sure.
But I did realize recently that my current boyfriend, when we first met, we had been texting for a while and he claims that he didn't know. No, I guess he knew, but he didn't know the circumstances maybe under... No, he claims he didn't know somehow.
That you were a widow?
When did he find out?
On our first date.
Last year.
But when does he think he
Yesterday.
found out?
On our first date, he says, was when it
Well, how
all
long
came
did
out.
you text before you went out?
I mean, for a couple weeks, I want to
wow.
say.
Do you have it, Lacey, or no? Do you put widow on your bio or no?
Well, on Match, you have to.
No, you don't.
So I thought you had to select divorced. It's been so long. The one that I was engaged to, that's how I met him. Then I didn't do Match. Match felt too open, like too much, and too many
Match was
emails,
crazy.
It was overwhelming.
I did not like Match.
I did just get back on it because I got off of it for a long time. I say a long time. It's only been a year, not even a year. But I met a guy on Match that I liked, and I kept seeing him again on Match, even though
You'd already matched.
we'd already matched and met, and he kept showing up. So I just got off of it for...
That's the worst part about Match to me. And then Bumble, you can't do that. Once you're matched with them, you can't tell when they're on or not. I mean, that's a little
That's
bit
what
better.
I don't like about Match is you can tell...
Yeah, that's
And
not
it
a
can be
good-
hurtful when you haven't heard back from them and you know they've been on recently.
Or if you're dating them and they're still
they're
out there
on.
looking and
Oh
you're
my
kind of
gosh.
thinking they're your person. But
One thing as a widow and trying to date that I've realized is divorce trauma is very different than widow trauma. We didn't have bad relationships that we chose to get out of, and they did. So
or they got left.
Or they got left.
I mean, that's
So
never good either.
So for me, I actually got into a relationship fairly quickly. It was a friend who was also grieving. And so we just deeply connected. It was way too soon, but like all of us, we were looking for escapes from the pain. And to have somebody, it just was too hard to resist. And I just, and you're looking for someone to help you. Like I was, at least, help me navigate, especially with
Christmas tree.
like the Christmas tree. Yeah, you should have got with their Jewish
Dead
neighbor.
squirrel.
But isn't it fascinating though that like some people when they're dead, you're free to go date.
Right.
When
There's
people
no
judge
wrong or
that,
right way.
But it's interesting that like I was like Holly. I was so grossed out of the thought of being with anyone. It took 3 years.
Wasn't like I made a conscious decision, although I do remember talking to a friend early on and they were like, "Do you think you'll ever get married again?" And I said, "Absolutely. I have no doubt that I'm going to meet somebody great and that I'm going to get married again because I have so much love to give and I'm really good at it." Now, cut to 5.5 years later, and now I'm not so sure. Now I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's not easy to meet people. And then like we all said, they have big shoes to fill. And I try very hard to not put Hunter on a pedestal. He was not perfect. We had our own issues, being married for 23 years or whatever. But I want everything that Hunter gave me and then everything that he didn't, which is unrealistic. So I have to reprioritize my stuff. I can't remember what my point was going to be.
I think it's hard for the guys. I've talked to your boyfriend.
Oh, we
Keira.
got to get him
We
on.
all were talking to him at your birthday party, your 50th birthday party, and he's such a good guy. And he looks at you like the sun rises and sets on your head. I mean, he's just, and it does, right? But he's a sweetheart. But I feel for people like him because it is hard to step into the widow world. I mean, divorcees, I think in that way, dating, they have it easier because they're looking to
forget stuff.
the other.
Yeah, they don't have pictures up. They're not commemorating birthdays or anniversaries and stuff.
I think there's a lot of trauma bonding in divorce. I think a lot of people get divorced and then they trauma bond over their divorce or their ex because they have that in common, right? And they're hashing that out. And I mean, I dated a couple men who were either, which I would never do again, separated or newly divorced, and they're still processing their divorce. And I felt like a therapist, like I was basically holding their hand through, which I initially wanted to be supportive and was like, oh, that's awful that she did that or she did this. And then later I came to realize, well, that's not really fair to this woman that I don't even know.
Right.
Like, how is that fair to their ex-wife or their soon-to-be ex-wife or the mother of their children?
And we can't possibly understand because
you're only getting one side. And
Yeah.
I mean, I learned so much actually through dating different people. I learned a lot about just relationships in general, relationships that, didn't look like mine. And that helped me hone really what I was looking for in a partner. I knew it wasn't going to be a replica of frank or what I had. But it did help me shape my values a little bit more and like what I really was looking for at that time of my life. And, now dating in my 40s as opposed to my 20s.
Right. What we want now is very different than what we wanted or needed in our 20s or 30s. Like, I don't need I want somebody who will be kind to my kids and stuff, but he doesn't need to be a quote unquote great father because he's not the father.
That was a grieving thing that I thought about the other day that was really sad because I met up with my old roommate in LA, contacted me out of the blue, was in town for business, and that came up. He said, that has to be really hard. And I said, that is one of the hardest parts. He's never going to have a stepdad. Even if I marry, that's not going to be a stepdad.
No, it'll just be like Carl.
Yeah, it'll just
or Wendell.
Or Wendell.
It'll just be Wendell.
It'll just be
Or Neville.
Neville.
I'll share one quick story that hopefully you guys can learn from that are listening out there. I'm starting to date and I'm talking with friends who have been dating. And one of the first things they tell me is that everyone has herpes. Everyone has herpes.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? And they're like,
too.
yes, everyone has herpes. And I'm like, okay, everyone has herpes. So I'm going down the dating path and that's in the back of my head, right? All right. So I start dating this guy. We get intimate and then I go away for spring break. I get blisters in my mouth and my brain starts going insane. I'm like, I have herpes. I'm bawling. And so I called this guy because I was so worked up and I had worked myself up into such a frenzy. And I wanted to be a good person. I was like, I want to be a good person. I need to tell him. And my sister was like, please don't say anything. Please don't do this to yourself. You are overreacting. You're a weirdo. Stop. And I was like, I have to tell him. I just have to tell him. And P.S., at the same time, he was sick with COVID. But I didn't know he was, sick. And I'm like, it's not COVID, you guys. It's herpes. Like somehow I had worked myself into such a state and I called him and I just blurted out, I think we have herpes. And he was like, what? What? And he had been in a long-term marriage or whatever. And it was so uncomfortable and so horrifying. And I'm bawling on the phone and he's like, and we had just started like dating, this wasn't like a year relationship or anything. And I get off the phone with him and I'm just so horrified. And then the blister went away and he was fine. And then I see the situation for what it was. And I had talk about making a mountain out of a molehill.
Tested? Why didn't you
No,
just
I
go
did, but you do go get tested. But also, this is another weird thing. Apparently, even the testing isn't clear. So even though it came back and it said I didn't have herpes, I still was like, well, is this can I even believe? I mean, you go insane with the
Whitney.
overthinking.
Oh boy.
And I humiliated myself with this guy. I
bet you never heard from him again.
They're still together.
We're still dating and we both have herpes.
The herpes thing is everywhere. I was on a date and he had a salad and I was like, oh, can I have, and he was like, here, have a bite of the salad. And I said, oh, can I have some salad? Don't worry, I don't have herpes. And he said, oh, actually,
I do.
I do have herpes. And I was like,
no, they
what?
don't.
Well, not everybody
does.
but I'm just saying. And by the way,
It was
it
a
shouldn't
shock.
be so.
And I had made a joke.
Did you have a
about it.
bite of the salad?
I did have I was like, I think it was the fork was kind of like almost
Well, if
to my
there's
mouth.
no blisters, then it doesn't matter. It's not contagious. But it's not even a big deal. But I had made it such a big
We
deal.
have a
And
sponsor
then
for this episode.
Totally.
I know. And then the guy was like, why do you keep saying herpes? Nobody says herpes. Like they just say fever blister or
But
whatever.
I said
don't know.
herpes over the salad.
But you're
and
a
he
widow,
said, yes,
too.
I have herpes.
It was the worst. That's the worst story of my dating is that whole.
Oh, that's pretty
several
bad. I
days.
have to say, yours tops anything I've ever experienced.
Oh my gosh, that phone call. I had worked myself up and then just blurted it out. He was like, what the hell?
We have herpes.
We
He's
have
like,
herpes.
No, I have COVID.
He's like, I don't have herpes. Why do you think you have herpes? Well, I don't know. Maybe you had herpes and you didn't know you had herpes. And he was like, are you blaming me? Are you saying that I gave you? And I'm like,
Are you
I don't
herpes
know what I'm
shaming?
saying. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Oh my God. It was terrible.
Whitney, you're too
That's
funny.
a funny story.
Is it?
Glad you
Or is
did
it
Yeah,
sad?
it's pretty funny.
Should I edit this out?
No.
I think that'll get us. We're gonna get
Oh
sponsors
my God.
out
I'm
the
getting
yin
all
yang
sweaty
from
just
that.
thinking about it. It was horrifying.
From Bumble,
anyway,
Match.
right. Number one,
Creams.
if you have herpes, it's no big deal. Number
Hinge.
two, you don't need to say herpes, as I keep saying.
Supposed to
Anyway.
say fever blister?
No.
All right. Who
Anyway.
hasn't told a funny? We have to wrap up with a funny date story. Who hasn't told a funny date story? Lace.
Oh yeah, I did because Holly and I
Dated the same guy.
guy.
I did not date him.
I don't know if that's
All right,
gonna
let's
be
hear
funny.
that.
Funny.
I mean, I have my fraud guy.
Kira, take us out. with
I don't
one of
think
your-
I've had anything this funny as herpes. I'm sorry.
No,
my
I
God.
don't think we
Can't
can top that, Whitney. I mean,
Herpes. I will say, like one little tidbit. I took a guy to see to hear music, and he ended up being kind of deaf, and that was awkward.
kind of.
Well, that's not something I guess you would say up
I
front, but-
remember that now.
He
How did you find
He
out?
didn't disclose that he was hearing impaired on the app, and I just thought he was cute. And you guys all know I love to go see live music. We live in Austin, Texas. It's a fun thing to do. So I find this club on the east side, and the band looks interesting, and we meet there. And he could read lips, and he ended up being like a super nice guy. But I mean, I would talk about mortification. I was just mortified. And then I think I asked stupid questions like, do you like the band? And, have you ever been here before? And it was a music venue. And he was like, well, I can feel the vibration and I can sort of get into it. But
Probably like you treated him normally. I mean,
But did he have herpes?
he probably did.
And by the way, I just again need to say it
Since everybody
doesn't
does.
matter. It's not a big deal. I
Whitney,
made
what's
it
your
this
favorite word?
big deal. Herpes.
No, I had the conversation when I went after I started seeing someone, and I went back to my gynecologist, and I was like, I'm widowed, and I'm now like in an intimate
Dating.
relationship with somebody, and like what's the panel? What are the tests? I mean, we were using protection, but you just never know. And I was freaked out too. And she was
Yeah.
like, "You should be freaked out. There's stuff out there.
Right. But
Just because
also,
you're older doesn't mean it's not like."
yeah, but
there.
you shouldn't be freaked out if
at least
you
pregnancy's off the books now.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me at the time. I had to go back on the pill.
You were still, I mean,
Oh, you had to go back on the pill.
you were only
I was
43.
in my early 40s. I mean, I don't
As
know.
long as you're still having your period, you can
Yeah.
still have a baby. I don't know if you guys know that, but another tidbit.
Birds and the bees here.
Anywho,
Every
all
widow
right, we're gonna
thing.
wrap it up. I don't even know how to wrap it up. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you
in.
should wrap it up.
Herpes.
That's what we're trying to
Wrap
do.
it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap
Exactly.
it up extra, because
So you don't
there's
get
herpes out there, y'all.
Not that
Be
there's
safe.
anything wrong with it.
Be safe.